Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with a Market Monday. Wednesday's good enough for a Market Monday, right? Apologize for the absence. I have been on vacation, then I had a death in the family, and then I came home from vacation and had the worst case of seasickness that I've ever experienced. We go to Lake Powell. It's a awesome place. I believe it's the second or third largest reservoir, something like that. Second or third largest reservoir in the United States. You can Google it. It's in the southern portion, kind of southern central portion of Utah and the Arizona border, and is on the Colorado River. And the vacation spot is just awesome. Great fishing, great boating. But this week it was pretty windy, and usually I try to stay off of the houseboat to fish and do other things. But with all the wind and how hot it was, I stayed way too much time on the houseboat, and I am still just spinning. If any of you have ever been on a cruise and then come home, you kind of know what I've experienced. But I think if the houseboat's even worse than a cruise, because you're kind of confined to even smaller spaces. And oh man, usually it's not this bad. This year I can't even look at a computer screen without wanting to vomit. Just so nauseous. So anyway, we're going to be back in the swing of things once I get all of these just this nonsense out of the way. But I would like to talk about a market topic, the Market Monday for this week. We're going to talk about Commander. You always want to get ahead of the cards that are going to work with these particular strategies. So we do have, I believe, all of them spoiled now as far as what the tribal mechanics are going to be. So it's going to be Vampires for the Mardu deck, Wizards for the Grixis deck. I believe this is only a green-white, so Selesnya is going to be a cat strategy, and then a 5-color dragon strategy. Now, the thing is that all of these really do exist in their color combinations. I think they're adding, like the cat strategy really reminds me of the equipment strategies, and a bunch of those, I don't know if some of those cards are going to be reprinted in the cat deck, like the 3/3 whenever you cast an equipment spell, I believe is what it does. No, that's the enchantment. So the combo, whenever you equip it, at the end of turn for each equipment attached to it, you get a 2/2 cat. I'm sure they might just chuck that in there because we do have a lot of spoilers rather than the reprints that are still going to be spoiled in this set. So we're going to look at like combo and see what is key in that particular deck and see any other cats that we might be thinking about, like maybe Kazali Pride Mage. I don't know if this is enough to like spike it up. It easily could be reprinted in this set too. But equipment does seem to be a kind of pertinent theme to this deck. It does seem like it is going to be kind of a white-green aggro, swarm/aggro strategy. The Vampire deck is very interesting with the Commander here. It costs 1 less for each life you've gained this turn, and then it has first strike and lifelink, and you can pay 5 life to put 3/1/1 counters on it. Activate this ability only on your turn. So it's a way to pump up your own commander. You can activate this multiple times. Oh, this commander just seems kind of busted. Pay 5 life, put 3+1. So if you gain a lot of life in one turn, you can actually cast this for very low, and then you can easily just one-shot. You have any sort of card like a haste type effect, you can one-shot a player down. I hate commander damage. I wish they'd get rid of it. I'm okay with it sticking around, but the 21's too easy, I think, for a lot of commanders just to one-shot people. But anyway, we'll talk about those type of things for another video. We'll focus on the market. So what we know by this is Mardu's going to have a little bit of a life game theme. It's also going to have a lot of a vampire theme. That tends to be kind of white-black vampires they have, but it also does get the best of both worlds because you get the white-black, and now you also get the red-black that you get from all those lovely Innistrad sets. And then Edgar Markov is the kind of the tribal aspect of it. It has once, so whenever you cast another vampire spell, if it's in the command zone or on the battlefield, you create a 1/1 black vampire creature token. So all of the vampire type lord cards are probably going to spike. And there are some good ones that have low supply. So I think that we'll just look at Olivia, or we'll look at kind of a Olivia slash, what other white-black vampires? There was one that was an old school vampire, 7 mana, I believe, white-black. We'll look at that. See if there's any cards that if we see a lot of overlap, especially from the black for those particular decks, those are the cards that you would want to invest in. All right, so then we have the Martha's Fiendseeker, which has Menace to being your end step. put a bounty counter on target creature an opponent controls for as long as the creature has a bounty counter on it. It has whenever this creature dies, each opponent draws a card and gains 2 life. Really cool type of card because it's gonna make your opponents want to kill particular cards. I actually like this card a lot. But anyway, that doesn't really affect a lot of tribal. You could make a deck just based around killing creatures, drawing cards, type things for the Martha's Fiendseeker. But anyway, another exciting card though is going to be this Ritualist, the Inala Archmage Ritualist. It's whenever it's in the command zone or the battlefield. You may pay 1 if you do create a token. So let's see. Whenever another non-token wizard enters the battlefield, you can pay 1. If you do create a copy of that creature, it gains haste until end of turn, exile the beginning of next end step. That seems really broken with a ton of wizards. We have access to white, black, and red, which is a lot of wizards like Dualcaster Mage, Snapcaster Mage, that are really good with this type of strategy. Then you get to copy them and then do a lot of shenanigans. So they're that kind of route to go with the spells wizards. But there already is a tribal wizard deck out there that we can get a lot of inspiration from for cards to invest in. All right, and then I guess lastly is dragons. There already is a lot of tribal dragons. There's Scion the Ur-Dragon that we'll get some inspiration from, and some of the other 4-color, 3-color dragon decks, I think is the ones we want to really look for to see which are going to be that they tend to put in those type of decks. I think we'll kind of go in the 5-color strategies. I think Scion's the best way. Scion is kind of a self-mill strategy because I believe when you cast it right, you get to exile a dragon from your graveyard or something like that, and then it becomes a copy of it. So we'll definitely take a look at those. So other cards that I haven't really identified will spike up any other particular card at the moment because a lot of these do work in tribal-based cards. So I mean, there's so many tribal-based decks out there. The Bloodsworn Steward is kind of cool. I think it goes in a lot of different decks. I'm definitely going to throw this Bloodsworn Steward in my Naheb deck. I think it's perfect to curve with Naheb. But again, I don't know if these are enough to already spike things that are out there. We'll look for silver linings. So far, yeah, more curses. So my curse spec is looking better and better. I know a TC player wrote a thing, and I think that Zach and I and a few other people that watch Market Monday caused like a #1 spec card for TCG player, or 1-1 sold. We did the Curse of, is it Curse of Misfortunes? No, Curse of one of the curse that lets you go get a curse each turn. Not because we had the curse that turned all creatures into 1/1s, target player. That cost 8 mana. I just decided that curse is starting to become more and more of an evergreen type mechanic. We saw it in Amonkhet, now we saw it in the Innistrad. So I think with the more curses out there, the more of these cards that work with curses, and it's going to be the lowest it was ever at, the 30 cents. You can still get into the black curse that goes and searches for curses. And I still think that's a great spec long term. It's going to be not too long before even Dark Ascension rares become more rare than mythics that are printed on the latest sets. So the more and more those are in, I mean, the longer and longer it is out there, the more it's going to go up in value, even if it's just a casual player building a curse deck. And one of the reasons why I did spec in it is I sold 2 play sets to 2 different players at my local game store, just kitchen table players that never come in and play. And that is a good sign because those type of players actually do drive a lot of demand, and they eventually will outstretch the supply. So I think this Curse of Verbosity is definitely a good sign for more curses. So far too, a lot of these do just work along with their tribal themes. Yeah, and so nothing so far that's really just stood out that I think will affect the marketplace too much. And if there is something, definitely look in, I don't want to turn this into too much of a spoiler video, more of a Market Monday. So let's get on to it. So of course the best place to gold mine the commander scene is going to be EDH Wreck. A lot of the cards that worked with Scarab God and the cards that worked with Locust God have spiked. We saw Shared Animosity go crazy. We saw Lich Lord of Unix or something of Unks, something like that went up, and a lot of the zombie tribal commanders. So let's just go ahead and look at Scion of the Ur-Dragon to see what these. Whoops, not Scion of of Ona, Scion of the Dragon. And see what... The cool thing about EDH Wreck is it shows you the overall cards that are played in... So for every Scion of the Dragon deck that has been recorded on, I believe, tappedout.net, and there's a few other places. Uh-oh, this might actually not work. We're having problems. There we go. It shows that there's 1,144 decks that they have registered, and then they start to find a lot of synergies between the particular decks, or not really synergies, cards that are common in particular decks. So right out the gates, we have a Atarka World Render. I think all of these from Fate Reforged are going to be included in the deck. We don't know how many are going to be reprinted, but the cards like Utvara Hellkite, if this isn't reprinted, this would probably be the standout card, I would say. The Crucible, it's either the Haven or the Crucible. I think the Crucible is the one that got a reprint in the Commander set. Let's see if we can find the ones that are... doesn't have the ones that are reprinted. Where can I find that information? Let's see. Newest spoilers. Because I know that we did see some of the cards from the set. Wow, yeah, I swear that they showed the... Maybe it was in some of the leaked ones earlier. We have to go way back. That shows that... I think it was the Crucible that worked with dragons was spoiled. But the Haven is also a good one, as it can return a dragon creature or Ugin Planeswalker back from your graveyard to your hand. It can spend all mana for dragons. Again, I don't think it was... The Haven was spoiled. We can definitely go and check it out. See if I can find another spoiler site. See if Goldfish has it on its Commander sets. Commander 27 spoilers. And we actually have a price list. So far, I'm looking through the reprints. We have Sorin as a reprint. And let's throw it over here. So we have the Crucible of the Spirit Dragon. Okay, so I don't know. Possibly the Haven. Oh, it is. Yep, the Haven's in here too. Okay, so there we go. This is a card that we're not going to speculate in, either Haven or Crucible, because it is going to get a reprint. So those ones are out there. It does seem like there is more curses. I guess we would have scrolled down, we would have seen that. And there's a few other reprints here and there that you have to keep your eye out for. So let's go back over to the Sign of the Dragon. So first one, a Mythic. Out of Return to Ravnica. Return to Ravnica was a set that was opened up a ton. So Utvara Hellkite, though, is a very, very popular card. You can see that it does see play in like Kali of the Vast, as well as some of these. Kali is a very, very popular deck. It's going to get more popular too with the Commander's Arsenal that just was, or the Commander's Collector's Edition, whatever the one that came out, because Kalia was the deck in there. And so I do expect Utvara. Let's just check some price of Utvara Hellkite to see what it's been doing lately. I apologize for not having some of this ready. So it did have a spike and then had a... So this came out the gates and then it just ended up being too much of a spike for it to keep its... I wonder if people were worried actually with Modern Masters too, or Modern Masters. Was it the time that this was announced, about February of 2000? No, I think it wasn't announced till later on. They could have caused this decrease. You see some of these decrease in cards that are eligible for reprints. But I think since it's reload $4.30, this card has had a steady gain, and this might be enough to strip it. So I actually do like the Utvara Hellkite at $5.18. I sell a ton of these to my casual play group. These can even go in decks, even like Animar. I've seen them be played in any sort of token-based strategy, like a Perforos deck. I've seen Utvara Hellkites in there. There's a lot of ways to abuse this with dragons. The more legendary dragons that come out, the more this card is going to be in those type of decks. Does it have room to be printed in this dragon deck? Possibly. But if it is not, this is definitely a card that I think that we should take a big, hard look at for investing in Utvaras. It's got, I think the Return to Ravnica has been out enough time that we're going to start to see the value increase in these type of cards. We've seen cards like even Theros, which is even later, like the Purphoros, go explode even further in value. And I believe Theros was open even more than Return to Ravnica. So Utvara could definitely start to see that sharp increase that we did see from the Purphoros. Speaking of Purphoros, this card actually might want to be in that in the Wizard deck because it deals with tokens, deals damage, creates the copy of it. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But you can see that Purphoros has had that lovely increase. It also had its low around $4.50, and you can just see that it has just been going up and up and up and up. It does have some demand from Modern, but not much from the Red White Soul Sisters variants. We see it every now and again in some other variants in Modern, but that's usually when they run it in. But this is a Commander powerhouse that it sees playing almost every red token deck, and any deck that is red and runs tokens, this card is in. So Utvara I think is going to start showing that same trajectory. I'm not too excited with only an increase of what, 40 cents from Amonkhet release and about 20 cents. So it is showing that trajectory. It does look like a flat line because it's been a slow increase, but I do like this. I like this as a great place to park your money. All right, that's enough about this. This is gonna be an 80-minute long video if I keep talking this much about one card. So I don't like mail. In this, mail could go in it as it's a great way to cheat out dragons. The Karthus Titan of Jund probably wants to be in here because you gain control of all their dragons and untap all dragons you control. So if you have any way to get an extra attack phase, this could just be lethal at that point. The good thing about this is it gives all other dragons haste. So I think it pretty much is a shoe-in for the commander deck or for the 5-color commander deck. But this is a price that I don't really like, the Tyrant of Jund, because it's just begging for a reprint. We do have some other sets that it could come out in Iconic Masters. So yeah, that's not a card that I think that has a lot of room. Like maybe 15 to 18 or 15 to 20 is feasible, because I don't think it's going to be in every deck. I think it's going to be in, yeah, maybe half or 40% of the deck. The Atarka World Render, however, is going to be in a lot of those decks. We're on the wrong page here. Let's go back to the Scion. And so Atarka is running 87% of decks. I think that this, because it does have a combo, so it might not be in the 5-color deck as much because it doesn't combo with this Scion, the Air Dragon, as much. But I think that Atarka World Render is a card that you can probably find these for 15 cents. If you go to over Card Sphere, I'm sure you can get people to send them to you for 15, 20 cents. I think that's a good time to pick them up. I spec'd into these a long time ago just because it just gets better and better with the more dragons printed. Silumgar, the same thing with Silumgar. I actually like the other Silumgar better for this particular strategy, other than this is a great way to wipe out those like Krenko type decks or even Locust God type decks whenever dragon you control attacks defending player, creatures get -1, -1. And so if you attack multiple dragons, you can wipe their board quite easily. Even Teneb the Harvester could be in a deck like this. I think that it's been a while since this card has been printed. All of these type of dragons that have that ability, this is probably the best one out of them. As you can see, that has 72% synergy with it. And then you can start reanimating any graveyard, creature card from a graveyard. So it's a high impact card. And Crux Fate's getting the reprint. Blade winning the Risen. Enters the battlefield, may return target dragon permanent from your graveyard to the battlefield. I think that one also is probably a shoe-in, and it also gives dragon creatures +1/+1. So this is a really good dragon card, I think, that wants to go in there. Dragon Tempest has been going up and up and up and up. Lately, I think the Dragon Tempest could even go up more. It's from a third set. I do like that. Balefire Dragon's been going up because of it's probably one of the best cards for Kali of the Vast. Steel Hellkite's just been printed so many times that I don't know that one more printing. It does see a lot of play, though. Another good way to check this is to see how many other decks use it. So like 12,000 decks compared to, what does Utvara hit in? Utvara hits in 4,000. So you can see that Steel Hellkite has a lot of demand outside of tribal dragons. And Dragonlord Dramoka could go in here, Sarkhan Unbroken, Savage Ventma, all those type of cards could be easy specs, and I wouldn't blame you for that. Kolaghan's Storm Fury, I think, is a great investment because you never know when this card is going to hit Modern play. I think it's powerful enough for a Modern deck. If we ever see Modern switch back over to more of a mid-range type, we're seeing a lot of like the Death Shadow type deck. If we ever see it, a lot of like the blue-white control decks, you could see a card like Kolaghan slip in there and actually start to affect. This is something that can make Lingering Souls very, very potent. So you've cast Lingering Souls, flashed it back, and then you dash into Kolaghan. It could easily be lethal. If a set or a format like Frontier ever does take off too, I think that this card will see play in that. So at 35 cents, I think that Kolaghan the Storm Fury is a great investment too. So far for Dragons, those are the two I like the most, is Utvara for the Mythic and Kolaghan for the Rare. You can check over these other Crucible Fire. Is it possible that this card could go up after Crucible Fire? There's like Dragon Storm that could go in this particular build. Skithiryx could be another thing that makes the increase in this. But I would definitely look through these. Dragon Speaker Shaman. There's another card. This gets reprinted a ton though. And I would be very surprised if it doesn't get a reprint in this particular Dragon deck. I think this will be one of the cards. They're going to put that of the Servant in there. Speaking of the Servant, this could have a slight increase. Keep in mind, though, this was the pre-release card. This was like a card you could get for playing in the game at the pre-release, the alternate art for the Dragonlord Servant. And so there's a lot of copies of these out there. And again, I do like Dragonlord Silumgar because you can see that actually it's not in as many decks as I thought that you'd see Dragonlord Silumgar. I think that this would be like a shoe-in for almost every blue and black deck, but apparently not. But that's the best way to check these, is just to click on the card and, you know, see how much they see in other EDH decks. And once you're around like the 4,000 mark, that is a pretty, especially if it's a recent set, that's a very good potential card that sees a lot of play out in various commander decks. You can see this with Sunscorched Regent. That's probably a good. Ooh, Sunscorched only at 2,426 too. This is another deck a card that just makes me shake my head that it's not in every Life Gain Karlov or Orloro deck out there. All right, so I think we spent enough time on Dragons. Let's move on to Wizards. And I'm trying to think of the. Let's just look at I'm just gonna put a Wizards that I know exists. And maybe this is a bad one because it won't come up with the commander that... yep, it came up with Azami. That's the card I was looking for. So Azami is your tribal wizard deck at the moment. And so we have to look at the cards. Labratory Maniac is... There's an infinite combo I just figured out in the commander set. Let me see if I can find it again with Locust God. There is a card that says whenever you name a creature type and whenever the creature enters the battlefield, you draw a card. It's one of these equipments. Is it this one? Is this the infinite one? Creature spells you cost, it chose cost one less to be in upkeep. Look at the top card of the library. It's a creature card. No, okay, that's not it. There was one that spoiled that goes infinite with the Labratory Maniac. And see if I can find it. With Locust God and Labratory Maniac. Huh. Is it a blue spell? Red spell? Something like that? Basically, it says whenever there it is. When Kindred Discovery enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, and whenever creature you control, and if the chosen type enters the battlefield, draw a card. So with Kindred Discovery and Locust God, this creates an infinite loop, and then you can basically draw out your entire deck. You'd have to play after a Labratory Maniac, though, so it's kind of a lot of people like to draw their entire deck then cast a Labratory Maniac, but if you hold up mana for Labratory Maniac, you'd have to have a way to stop the chain. So you'd have to somehow bounce back your card or stop the chain of drawing cards. Yeah, so might be a little bit too hard to set up, but Labratory Maniac should get another kick because of Kindred Discovery. Labratory Maniac sees so much play in so many different decks as their win con. If you click on it here, it has a 7,568. Once you get into that number, that means that it's in a ton of different decks. So Merfolk and Wizard spells cost one less. The Stony Brook Banneret. Could this be the card that actually gets this up? We also have Merfolk coming out in a dual deck, I believe. Merfolk versus Goblin that's coming out in a dual deck? I can't remember what they actually spoiled for the set or the dual deck that's coming out with the Ixalan. Mind Over Matter. This is a card that is very expensive at the moment. The Patron Wizard, another expensive card, but all of these will go up more in value. We have Venser, which is a wizard, which does a lot what you want to do. Then you can get a copy and actually bounce itself. I actually think Venser will go in almost every one of those decks just because of the synergy with it. So you pay one, return target spell or permanent to owner's hand, so you can Venser and then Venser itself, and then cast it again and pay one, create another Venser itself type thing. And you get a bunch of Vensers that they can bounce back permanents that are problematic, or, you know, bounce back something that you want. The cards like Glendalandra, Archmage, Archaeomancer goes perfect in this one. I think the pick, though, for this one, I do like Labratory Maniac. I think that it might be the win con for this Grixis deck, but something like Stony Brook Banneret might actually, this might be the straw that breaks the camel's back for a common spec. That we did see uncommons from Hapatra go crazy and just go up in value. I do like Venser, so if that would be my pick, though, for like a card that is just reprinted that I think will have a lot of room to grow, because I think we're done with the supply of Modern Masters 3. I don't think there's a lot of it running around there. I don't think there will be a lot of mass openings of the cards anymore, and so I think it's reached its bottom. So you can probably find people willing to send them on Cardsphere for like $1.50 to $2, and you should have them in no time. And it will take a while for this card to go up, but as far as Wizards is concerned, that's the card that I would bet my money on. A lot of these are already very expensive. They need a reprint, and I think, is this one a reserve list card? This one, the Void Mage Prodigy, could be a good one. Sacrifice a wizard to counter target spell. But the problem with it is the cards get exiled, the tokens get exiled. So it's not like a way that you can have. I think this still would want to go in that deck. And we'd also have to look at like black or red wizards that kind of fit the bill. Would there be, let's see if we can find if this patron wizard goes in another. I know Marquesa was a wizard, if I remember correctly. We can look at maybe Nim is at the Fire Mine if there's like a wizard aspect to it, or I'm not seeing a Grixis one though. If Marquesa had some wizards that went along with it. But cards like that, Phyrexian Metamorph, does it trigger off? I think when you cast was the trigger spell. Any changeling type spell would work with it. Sage of the Fables, that's a great one. All wizards enter the battlefield. I do like Sage of the Fables here too. I think that's a great little pickup for the Wizards tribal. But definitely look into the red and in the black to see if there are any pertinent wizards. I'll have to pull up Empty Joe sometime to see. But anywho, I think the perfect pick for this one would be Venser. And I do like the Void Mage Prodigy. And then, yeah, I think that Clever Impersonator, that's a great one too. Anyway, all right, so we'll go on to the next one that is spoiled. So let's look at Vampires. Vampire has a couple of them. We have like Olivia Voldaren for the red-black to look at. And it usually does have, so Stormcrypt Captain, I'd be very, very surprised if Stormcrypt Captain did not see a reprint in here, but if they do, pick them up. Same thing with Bloodline Keeper and Anawan. Anawan, I believe, did have a recent reprint, but Anawan, I think, is perfect. These ones, Anawan's the one that I would definitely spec into. I think the Vampires is, out of the three so far that we've looked at, it has the highest potential. Yes, there will be some Wizards decks out there. I think Vampires will just be a lot of the duh cards that are going to go. We do want a Vampire Tribal type strategy, I always think, with the swarming of dragons. And so Anawan's the perfect card for Vampire Tribal. We do have like the Captivating Vampire. If it doesn't get a reprint, this could easily double. We do have like the Vampire Nocturnus. The problem with Vampire Nocturnus is maybe a bunch of your cards won't be black, and so you don't get the ability to always say that Vampire Nocturnus is going to give an Anthem effect to your cards. We have all of the cards like the Rakish Hare. Again, Hare. It's not a rabbit. The Rakish Heir, I think, could easily go up in value. It has out of Innistrad. If it's out of Dark Ascension, I'd like it more. These type of cards out of the new Shadows Innistrad, I think, are a trap. I don't think you want to invest in many of them just because it's going to take too long for them. I think after rotation, they'll hit their bottom, and that's the time to go to buy into them. With the exception of maybe Drana in a swarm type strategy. Drana would be a good one to throw in this, but there's a lot of Vampire Tribal based cards back in the, like, Indulgent Aristocrat, for example, that go perfectly in this type of strategy. We have close to Highborn. That's another one. I don't think this has ever been reprinted, right? That might be worthwhile because it does the added ability of also the life gain. The is going to be the kind of sub theme of the deck, and even a card like Kalitas could go great in this. But Kalitas is actually, I think, can go even lower after rotation. It hasn't seen a lot of play in Modern. And now if I can think, let's look at Captivating Vampire. That's going to show us other commanders that it's used with. See if there it is, Vishkal Blood Arbiter. Let's see Anawan. I think Anawan's probably the best of the tribal, but I want to look at the Vishkal Blood Arbiter for other cards that out of white that might run into this vampire tribal base deck. But I think this would be more of a life gain card. You can see the signatures card. Blade of the Blood Chief, there's a great one. It's a vampire. It can give everything the plus. Bloodline Keeper here. Machias the Unhallowed. Machias makes zombies though, so I don't know if that goes great in here. Doom Dissenter. Does it want to kill things? Is that what happens? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's why we're finding cards like that. Let's look at creatures here. Yeah, this just seems like it's a more of a late game strategy, and it doesn't have a lot of vampires from white. Cliffhaven Vampire does have the light. We have to wait and see more things spoiled if there is going to be a bigger life gain type strategy. The Blood Baron Vizkopa could easily go in those, and it's very, very low at the moment. I don't believe it got a reprint. So this could be a spec card. I don't like it though. $1.75. I think it needs a lot more work. Let's check out the Blood Baron Vizkopa. 851 decks. See, it's not a very popular card in Commander, so I think that it's not something you want to spec into. I don't think this is going to put it over the top. See if there's a few others here. I always wonder when I guess Falcon Halo just got a reprint, so it's never going to go up from Modern Masters. Combo's not it does have the life gain strategy that is a pseudo part of the deck. Yeah, not a lot I'm seeing from white. Is Ravos a vampire? Having trouble loading this. Apologize for the lag. But if Ravos is a vampire, it could easily go in this deck. But yeah, what does white actually have to offer besides the Sorins? In fact, I actually do think that both Sorins would be my pick to invest in. So we have the Sorin Grim Nemesis, or not Sorin Grim Nemesis, the Sorin. So we have Sorin, Lord of Zendikar, and I think this is still the thing I like about Sorin, Lord of Nemesis, is Lord of Innistrad, is starting to see modern play a little more in these kind of a lot of the decks. It really is like, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer actually ticking up your Planeswalker to put out tokens, or do you, and then the emblem having to tick down? But the thing about Sorin, Lord of Innistrad, it's starting to see a lot more play. I think this is going to be not a token-based deck. It's going to be a Smallpox deck. And yes, it's a Smallpox deck, because if you get Liliana or Sorin up to their ult, it basically wipes the board of any other cards that are out there. And so they're kind of like tick up, and slowly just wheedle away. I've seen Sorin, Lord of Innistrad be played in a Lingering Souls black-white token strategy as well, as the emblem is something that's pretty good, as you can +1, put out a vampire, and then go emblem, and there's very few decks. But a lot of the token strategies do prefer the +1ing of the other Sorin, the Sorin out of Konzatar here. But I do like this spec. In fact, I just like Sorin because it's such a casual card. The reason why it's so inexpensive, it was in a dual deck, and I believe it was like at the height of dual decks when they overprinted them. I think they stopped overprinting dual decks as much with the heroes versus monsters. They were just everywhere for so long, and so was this card. And so you've seen it's been stagnating for quite a while, but I do believe it's time for this card to go up. Maybe if we see the normal ones starting to go up in value, 550 out to about 645. Let's check out the other Sorin, because I think out of Konzatar here, Lord of Innistrad is also, or Solemn Visitor is also ready for, yeah, this card is definitely ready for an increase. And you can see that we also do have Modern sharing a lot of the demand from this card. So far I think that Sorin Solemn Visitor is the card I would go all in on for the Mythic. I think it's even better than Utvara Hellkite. It's exactly what a Vampire Tribal deck wants. It has the life gain aspect to it. It's got the 2/2 black Vampire it can create, the +1/+0 life gain, everything. The emblem, which is pretty good. Each opponent's up to get that player sacks a creature if you get it up to emblem. So let's check out how much EDH Wreck. We'll check both of them and see if they have a lot of demand outside or in Commander. So let's check out Sorin, Lord of Innistrad first, which should be slightly higher. If they're tied, then the latter one will be, I think, more. So 3,139. That's pretty decent. Pretty decent. So Sorin, Solemn, Visitor. 2,083. It's surprising that these don't see more play, because they seem to be pretty easy to put in most Commander decks. I've had them in Tesa before, both of them. I do like them both in like Karlov and Eiley. Usually they're pretty good. They do everything you want with both Eiley creating tokens. And these are Eiley is a lot of new players love to get into Eiley or Karlov. They're inexpensive decks to build. So 2,000 and 3,000 respectively. That's pretty decent demand from Commander. And they should definitely go in this new Vampire deck. And then both of them having demand from Modern, with the Sorin Solemn Visitor having slightly more demand because of Frontier. Frontier seems to be still going strong in its play groups. They had a very successful Frontier tournament recently at one of the GPs. So yeah, I think that both of these are my picks for the Vampire. They're not as as some of the other picks. I think they'll be slower out the gate, but as soon as the lists start rolling in for the Vampire Tribal, they're going to be in. Both of them are going to be included. I think they do want a token-based strategy. They do want life gain-based strategy, and both the Sorins end up playing that role. So last but not least, again, you can check through anything that Red has to offer. I'm sure there's plenty out of Innistrad, original Innistrad, and out of Shadows Innistrad if they do hit their bottoms to invest in. Of course, Captivating Vampire is a great one to look into. And anything out of Anawan, you can see. Let's see if there's anything that just stands out. Vampire Nocturnus, I think, is a great card to pick into. That does tribal Blade of the Blood Chief is a great tribal one. And yeah, not a lot of other cards that really work with Vampire Tribal as much as like putting plus. Zombie has a bazillion. The Ascended Evankar is a great one as well. It's been, yeah, I actually sell a ton of these for various Commander-based decks. All right, that's enough of that, though. Last but not least, though, we do have the Cats. Cats is the one that I'm least excited in because I think that a lot of the cards, it's not going to outstretch a lot of them, but it has the equipment. Let's see if we can find Kamba. How you spell the equipment cat. Let's just look at the Sword of Vengeance. It should come up. There it is. Kemba. Kemba's the name of it. So Kemba, I think, would be the Artifact Tribal. So SRAM does have some room to grow. Stoneforge Masterwork, they both hit their low. Pure Steel Paladin could go up, but it's not a cat. Regal Caracal could get spiked up because of it. So what you want to do is you want to find cats that work with equipment. So right here, the Leonin Abunus? Artifacts can be the target of spells or abilities your opponent control. This could be a perfect one for the deck to spike up. The Leonin Shakiri also could be a great one to spike up because it's going to have that the equipment based and it's going to work with cats. So perfect right there. We also have Raksha, Golden Club. Doesn't cause it to tap as long as it is equipped. Cat creatures can go get plus bonus one double strike. All right, here we go. That's the pick. It's from Darksteel. Here's the one you want to invest in. It works with cats. It works with equipments. This is going to be the card that has the double up. Let's see if there's any movement right now on Raksha. If this does get reprinted, see, they've already adjusted it. So you can see that Card Kingdom has already spiked this up to 450 in anticipation for this card to go up. This is definitely your double up. It has this nice increase, what you like to see. It's from an insanely rare set. The thing is, though, I don't know if I'd pull the trigger on it quite yet. This is a card that could be in this set, in this Commander. So wait for a little more spoilers. If Raksha, the Golden Club, is not in there, pull the trigger on this card. I highly recommend this. This is the dove all does. Works with cats, works with equipments. It's everything you want in the cat tribal deck. So let's see if there's any other silver linings before we close it. We're at 40 minutes. I guess we'll just go over my top cards that I would invest in at the moment. Brimaz is another good one, of course, because it puts out cats. So from cats is going to be Raksha Golden Club, hands down. I don't think that anything even comes close to the Raksha the Golden Club. I do like Stoneforge Masterwork. I think that works out really well with it. But perfect card, does everything you want it to do in this particular deck. With Brimaz being a close second because it's an undervalued mythic that sees play in Modern. For the vampires, go with both the Sorins. I think both the Sorins are going to be I would say about a 25% increase out the gates, and will start to have a better trajectory than they've seen in the past. They also have the Modern pressure that they're getting. Definitely, those are the two cards that I like the $4 range. I think that that's the perfect cards for double ups. Then we go into the Dragons. Dragons is still a Utvara Hellkite if it doesn't get reprinted. I also do like Atarka World Render, and as well as the black-red dragon. I can't think of Kolaghan. Kolaghan out of Fate Reforged. So out of Wizards, I think that more of the trash cards, more of the cards that deal with the reducing the cost of Wizards getting a +1/+1 counter, all those uncommons from those early commons and uncommons from those early sets, I think are the better ones to pick up. A lot of the cards that I think are going to get bumped from the Wizards are already very expensive. I'd have to research more into Grixis to see if there's any cards that just particularly stand out, and then I'd pull the trigger on those. But as of now, yeah, I think that actually looking into more like cards that work with tribal based cards are a better route. I'd have to scour over Azami for some more. We were going to look at Nimazet for that if there was any sort of Wizards based. And there's Arcanist Omnipotent. There's a perfect Wizards for it. But for right now, Wizards is the one that I like the least, just because it's got a lot of different ways to build it, and I actually think that Wizards is going to be quite popular, but it's not going to affect the market right out the... Mercantile Chemist is a good one. That's a perfect card. So is Jorian. Yeah, I guess actually there is a lot of cards here that are worthwhile to look at. But Labratory Maniac, I think, would be another good of the Wizards ones to pick up. If this card doesn't get reprinted, this card is the demand of this card is just going to completely outstretch the supply. Look how many decks this card is used in, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. It gets better and better with the more infinite combos printed in Commander. And then we have as the last tribal, so we did cats, vampires. Nope, that's it. Wizards and dragons. Those would be my picks. If you have any other picks that you would invest in, definitely put them in the comment section below, and we can help each other out. Again, where I like this best is utilizing services like TCG Low and Cardsphere. See if you can find any extremely low. You don't need to pull the trigger like insanely fast. It is released in the not so distant future. This card, when is this released? The release date's somewhere in August. It's coming out soon, but I think you do have time. That's the thing with Commander. It takes a while for the supply to start outstretching the demand. So just pick up the lows of TCG. If you can find people that are selling it for very, very low, just buy the bottom, wait a couple days till more are listed, buy those bottoms, and then when you start to see real movement, that's when you pull the trigger. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting these on Cardsphere, the cards that I want, and see if people will actually fulfill them for really low, probably 50% discount, and we'll go from there. Last but not least, I am going to be updating the 100 ticket challenge. A lot of people have asked about it. I'm going to do a video for right now. I have unlisted all of the 100 ticket challenges. Again, we've lost some potential trades for the 100 ticket challenge just because of my vacation and just being out of it lately. But there is a good trade right now that I'm going to do a trade for that I think is the right time to get out of the card. And I'll show you that in the upcoming 100 ticket challenge. And we'll look for a card to invest in that I think is low currently in the MTGO. Anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.